Welcome to the WanderLearn podcast. I'm your host, France Tapon. This episode, I have Sim Blanchard, but also Patty, his girlfriend. This is a love story that took 60 years to happen. And you got to hear the incredible story. And then, about halfway through the podcast, Sim tells me about how he nearly died in 2020 in the summer when he was hiking in the Wind River Range in Wyoming. And he got sick along the trail, and the mystery of how he got sick, why he got sick, we don't know. You're going to want to hear how that near-death experience actually happened. They talk about their time in Ashland, their time on El Camino de Santiago de Compostela, as well as their adventure in Morocco, and a few other stories. In the end, we talk about a little bit about politics and COVID and the coronavirus vaccine that's coming down the pipe. Enjoy this fantastic podcast with Sim Blanchard and Patty.
We've known each other since I was 6 and he was 8.
60 years.
Wow.
And I'm originally from San Francisco, and he's originally from the Los Angeles area, where I had family. And my parents are divorced, and so my father golfed and worked all summer long. So he sent me to my aunt and cousins to spend the summer. And he was the boy 3 doors down.
Okay. By the way, for those who are listening, occasional rumblings in the background, it's 3 dogs wrestling with each other. It's not that Sim is hungry.
Well, that too.
You even thought about marrying Patty.
Yeah.
How old were you?
My best friend was her cousin, and she'd visit her cousin, and I was 8 and she was 6.
That's marrying age right there.
Right there. In my part of the country, boy. No, we always we came over and played at her house, and we had hide and go seek until we were caught mushing in the bushes. And so
mushing?
Yeah.
What the fuck
kissing.
You guys call it mushing?
No, not me.
Okay.
She was mushing. She forced me into it, honestly.
That'll be the day.
Mushing? Seriously, that I've never heard
we
the
were
expression
kissing
mushing.
behind the bushes.
Who the hell's? Where's this mushing term from?
That's from the 50s and 60s. You're a young guy, Francis.
Yeah, because my dad used to call it smooching.
Okay, yeah, but smooching I've heard.
Mushing, it makes me think of an Alaskan dog.
Yeah, I like mush. Yeah,
okay, smooching. Okay,
smooching. Okay, that's better. Okay, so you guys were smooching in the and this was at 8 years old?
No, this is we were what? I was probably 15 and you were 14.
No, I was 16.
I
was 16 and you were 18, and I know this for a fact because I went home at the end of that summer, back to school, flaunting that I was dating a college man.
And I took her out on our first date, and we went to see Gone with the Wind, and it was so long she had to call her aunt for intermission to see if we could stay longer.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, permission to stay.
Yeah. But wait, Gone with the Wind was done in 1939.
Yeah, but they had reruns like in 1969, 68, 67.
You got to the point where you thought about marrying her after smooching or mooshing or whatever you call it.
Yeah. I guess I was probably about 21 or anyway, and she was 20. And there was she wanted to get married and have a white picket fence and start having babies, and I wanted to hitchhike to South America. And it just, I don't know why she didn't want to go hitchhiking to South America, for goodness sake. So she stayed home and she stayed home for a while, and I was sending postcards from every port telling about all the girls that I was meeting. And she didn't seem to appreciate that. So
how was it getting those postcards, Patty? Was he actually bragging about the girls he was?
No, not at all. But I mean,
He was saying that
he left me behind and was that clueless. He thought we were friends, and he was just, being in touch. But the bizarre point of this story right here is that just like literally 8 hours before the first postcard came, I had turned 18, graduated from high school, and thought, oh, I'm a grown woman. I can go off and get married now, and I'm going to marry Sim Blanchard. Oh. And so I wrote this letter, I miss you, I love you, I'll move you, whatever it takes. And in the old days, we had, writing and lick the stamp, and I licked the stamp, and I was literally going out the back door to go to the post office to mail it. And his first postcard came through.
And it was just, what did it say? You probably remember it verbatim, or
No, but I remembered that was the end of that.
but why? Well, what did it say?
He was, having a good time with, Mary Sue or whatever her name was.
Oh, so he did actually.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So
At least I'm honest.
So
you
like,
could say I
wow.
was pretty devastated.
Amazing. Just the timing of things.
Yeah.
What would you have done, Sim, had that letter, let's say you gotten one day later, and so her letter got out? You basically cross letters. What would you have done if would you be like, well,
we talked about that, and for me to get married and I wasn't ready to get married and have the white picket fence and raise kids yet. So, I was 21 or 21, 22. So that would have been a huge mistake. So, and she was ready. And so she went ahead and had kids. And then I was about 30 before I got married and ready to get married. And then I checked and she wasn't available. So.
Oh, you actually did check?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And she
so you never notified Sim when you actually got married?
No, but the funny thing is as he said, my cousin 3 in Whittier, was his best friend. So he was always informed, of me. And almost vice versa. I mean, I knew that he was married. I knew he had 2 kids. In fact, his mother used to send me still, even after he was married, the family Christmas letter.
Okay. And then you got married to a Navy man.
Correct.
When you were walking down the aisle, was Sim even on your brain, or at that point you're like, no, I'm
No.
Okay, totally done with this dude. And you thought
Loser.
And you thought you were never going to see the guy, at least in any kind of meaningful way, ever again, right?
Correct.
Right.
Correct. Although I must confess, maybe 10 years ago, my daughter and husband and son moved into my house, and so I had to downsize to just the master bedroom. And I still had every letter he ever wrote me from the time I was 16. Mm. And by that time, I thought, really? Like, what are you doing? Mm. And it had been 7 or 8 years before the previous boyfriend, and I thought, oh, just give it up, Patty. It's time to trash this stuff. And I did. Mm. Ran into him a year later.
But she said that she told her girls that there was the summer love, the boy who got away. And she never gave me a name. And so when we finally got together and they met me, they said, oh, you finally have a name. You were the boy who got away.
Okay. Tell us about that.
So, yeah. I mean, the girls knew that I had this, summer that my dad sent me away, and, all the cousins and the stories of my childhood in summer. And yeah, about the boy down the street and hide and go seek and, the whole thing. And I did not ever give his name deliberately because Sim, I mean, nobody's going to forget that name, or nobody's going to, it's unique.
Right.
And so I never ever delivered that. And yeah, so when we ran into each other 40 years later.
How did you, so tell us about that story where you ran into each other.
Okay, so my aunt passed, the aunt that lived in Whittier that connected us. And my brother lives in Sacramento, and he called and said, oh, Aunt Kay passed on, I think, Saturday. And I think this was Tuesday, and he said, funeral is Saturday. Get on a plane and get up here. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I said, Jimmy, I can't do that. 4 days, I can't do that. Mm-hmm. Get on the plane. Mm-hmm. I said, Jimmy, I'm the only assistant. I'm a surgical dental assistant working full-time at the time. I said, I can't do this. And besides that, I can't afford that. Do you know how much a ticket is in 4 days' notice? I said, get on the plane. Mm-hmm. And I said, really, I can't, Jimmy. He said, look, this might be the last time you see all 6 of your cousins in the same room again. I said, I'll call you back. I made the reservations, $500. I was pissed. Oh, God, I was so pissed.
That's from San Diego up to Sacramento.
Yeah. So,
$500.
Yeah. Big deal to me.
Now it's $38.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then you have inflation. So
exactly. Yeah. So we went. So I flew into Sacramento, and the next morning, got dressed for my aunt's funeral. Not thinking anything about, shall I put on mascara? I'm going to run into Sim Blanchard. No way. So went down there, and out of the 6 cousins that I spent my summers with is one girl. She is my exact same age, and we grew up like sisters.
Mary Ann.
Right, yeah. And that's how it all came to be. So I was in the church talking with my cousin Marianne in the middle aisle of a Catholic church. And all of a sudden I heard this voice go, well, there they are, Marianne and Patty. And honest to God, I didn't even have to turn around. I immediately said to myself, dear God, that is Sim Blanchard. I turned around, and the last I'd seen him 40 years ago, he was kind of...
Pudgy.
Yeah, a little pudgy in overalls, a ponytail, John Lennon glasses, smoking dope, and, just do. I turn around, he's about as thin as a beanpole, in a 3-piece suit, his head is shaved, and I'm like, oh boy. I mean, I just couldn't believe it. So at that, he walks over to the two of us, Marianne and I, and says, hey, how are you? And I'm thinking, oh my God, be cool, Patty. Oh my God, because this is the one who got away. Just at that, the priest walks in. Everybody separates from the center aisle of the church. Marianne steps forward. I step in the middle. Sim steps behind me. I turn around, look him straight in the face and say, how are you? Because what am I going to say?
Right.
And he says, good, fine, just coming out of an amicable divorce. Well, I've already been divorced, going on 20 years.
Oh,
so to
wow.
me, yeah, I've been divorced a long time. So to me, it's no big deal. And I'm thinking, and as I say, I knew he was married, had 2 kids, everything was hunky-dory last I'd heard. And suddenly my knees start to knock thinking, did the man just say divorce?
Wow.
So at that, the procession starts, priest goes up front, and I was at my aunt's funeral with my brother and sister-in-law. And my brother says to me, Patsy, my family name. And so I walk up to, the family aisle 2 or whatever. And next thing I know, Sim is like, nudging me to slide over so he could sit beside me. And I'm thinking, Sim Blanchard sitting beside me? Oh, my God. And I don't know if you or your audience is going to know, but when we were kids, there was a candy called Pop Rocks.
Oh, yeah, the one that kind of you put in your
explodes
in your mouth. Yeah. It's
and
like
the whole time,
It's like
Rocks.
popcorn in your mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the whole time in my head are the Pop Rocks going, Sim Blanchard sitting beside you, Sim Blanchard sitting beside you. So, of course, I go home after the weekend and I'm telling my 2 grown daughters this. They're like, Mother, that was so disrespectful to your aunt in the casket on the lawn.
I'm sure your auntie would be rooting for you if she knew.
She would.
Yeah.
She was a great lady.
So then we went from the service to lunch, which is in the rectory of this Catholic church. He sits down beside me for lunch. And I'm thinking, oh my God, Sim Blanchard sitting beside, oh my God. So we meandered to visit all the family, and my brother says to me, Patsy, the bus is leaving, gotta go. I don't think he said anything. He just came up and gave me a full frontal hug. And I was thinking, I might be 58 years old, but you cannot touch me like that in front of my brother. I am still the little sister. So I backed away like immediately.
But I made sure it was long enough so she would remember, like right now. So
It worked.
It worked.
Oh, it worked. I forget what the conversation was, but something about how we hadn't got together because I was young and naive, or that was his implication by saying, well, Patty, the only thing you had to do at the time, in other words, if I wanted to make a move, was you had to take my hand. Which when I was young and Catholic and naive. Yeah, absolutely. Right. Absolutely. So.
But Sim, were you completely clueless that Patty had a huge crush on you? Or, at what point did you realize that she dug you?
Well,
sorry, Patty just spit out her drink.
Smooching in the bushes was one.
Okay, that's a clue. Yeah, but okay.
But I guess I didn't really realize the depth of her emotions, of her feelings.
She just thought you were a hot bod.
We have great chemistry, and we still do, which is really great. No, I didn't realize the depth of her love for me. So, I was clueless.
When did you realize that? Last week?
Can I hit him if he gets wrong? Yeah.
No, it was shortly after we met up again. You tell that story.
No.
So wait, so back then, so just the other thing that people that may not realize, of course, back when you guys reunited, and actually during the whole point while you both were married to other people, there was no such thing as social media. There's no way to easily stalk somebody. So you really were clueless about what each other were doing to a large extent. I mean, nowadays it's different.
Right, except for, as I say, a little bit, when I would see my cousins at families or, funerals or weddings, I would catch a drift. And I think the same of him.
Yeah, my best friend was her cousin. So, and we kept in pretty close contact.
So did you know when Patty actually got divorced?
I think I did. I'd always talk to her cousin Tom, and as a side, I'd always say, well, and how's Patty doing?
Okay.
and so I guess I found out later.
Okay, but then when she did get divorced, you were still thoroughly married with your children. And everything, right?
Yeah.
And so when you got divorced, were you strategic in trying to hunt her down, or did you just kind of like stumble on her? Or?
I kind of stumbled on her. Okay. I wasn't really ready for a relationship yet. I was still kind of going through the process. I met with her about a couple months later in San Diego. I went down, and we did a nice walk in La Jolla, and it was nice. And so then we reconnected, and she let her feelings be known, and I let my feelings be known, and we connected.
I got to the San Diego airport, and my foot touched, the tarmac in San Diego, and like a light bulb, it was like, oh my God, you didn't get his address, you didn't get his phone number, you didn't get his email. I didn't get any information because, the hug came so unexpectedly. I just ran like a chicken. And so I am not very tech savvy. And so I went to work the next morning. There's a young girl there, and I said to her, here's your assignment, and make it quick because the man's leaving the country in 3 weeks, and I have got to make contact now.
Going to Madagascar, wasn't I?
No. You were going to see your sister in Taiwan.
Oh, Taiwan's.
Well, he couldn't be found because he had no home, no address, no.
What year was this?
2011.
A week she couldn't find him, and I thought, if there's going to be something happening here, I'm the one that's got to make the contact. I already know this. So I get desperate. I send an email to my cousin, his best friend, Tom, who put on the funeral for my aunt, and very casually said, you did a lovely job for Aunt Kay, and it was great to see you. Sorry for the reason, and I'd like to send a note, to your brothers and sister, and maybe to Sim.
Good, and Sim was the only one who got a note. Exactly right. So, but now I've known Sim for many years, but Patty, I just met you today,
right?
And in many ways, it just seems superficially, at least cursory look, that you guys are such opposites in certain ways.
Oh, we are.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the classic thing of opposites attract. But I mean, like, for example, you grew up, it seems like a Catholic upbringing, very conservative, by the book. And then it sounds like such a classic love story of the prim and proper girl falls in love with the bad boy. Is that a fair characterization to a certain extent?
It is a fair characterization, except for that when I was puppy dog in love at 16, I was clueless to really what the term bad boy meant.
Well, in the sense that he was a rebel, even at 16. I mean, he wanted to like go off and like surf.
Well, Patty thought she was a big rebel because in Catholic school, she would kiss with the altar boys behind the altar. And so she knew she was going to spend a lot of time in purgatory.
Yes. Yeah. No, and I understand that too also because being the bad boy is a relative thing also. She was in her world, probably a rebel. And so therefore it's unthinkable of you being so rebellious as Sim was.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
Your world. Right?
Absolutely.
But in your world, you did your own level of rebellion or just your own level of kind of going your own different path as much as you could given the constraints
right, exactly.
that you grew up in because this was an era which was, where women were supposed to be women.
Oh, absolutely. Stuff, right? And as I told you earlier, I was raised by my father only,
right,
who was very stout German.
Right.
And then the Catholic nuns.
Right.
So, yeah, my perimeter of box was pretty limited.
Right. Now, at the same time, you guys are not willing, or at least at this point, to get married. I can see all those reasons why not to get married. I personally get it, but maybe people listening to this don't get it. So why don't you enumerate what your thought process is on the pros and cons of that?
Well, you mean as far as getting married now?
Correct.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And, honestly, we have the best of both worlds right now. I mean, from my perspective, in that I have freedom to travel, and Patty has her home base. And so I'll travel and do sim things, do it the way I like to do it. And then I meet up with her every couple months, and we do 3 to 4 week trips. We'll go to Europe, or we were just in Montana and Wyoming, and we were in Oregon for 3 weeks, and we were in south of Spain and Morocco for 3 or 4 weeks. So, honestly, there's really no reason to get married. She's got an ex-husband that she helps out, and I've got an ex-wife that I can help out, and so it's a good. I think it's a good way to be.
For me, as I say, the way I was raised, I was raised by a very stern father, raised with 2 brothers. Then I'm married military, which is very controlling, raised by the nuns. And in my personal opinion, I don't want to be controlled. I don't want to answer to anybody. I don't want to owe anybody anything. And I'm blessed, very blessed, to be able to be this independent. And for me, that's the reason.
And I love independent women, so she's right there.
Now, if you were counseling either your children or anybody else, why should somebody get married?
That's a very good question, because trust me, when I got divorced and had 2 daughters, I thought, oh, shit, what am I going to tell them? When they come in with that puppy dog love. It never crossed the board. I mean, they came home, with the boyfriend, and, 2 years down the road, they wanted to get married. It just was a natural process. There was never, gee, why'd you get divorced, Mom? Or, gee, should I? Or, I mean, they know why I'm divorced. Trust me.
Right.
Yeah, from my perspective, it's good to be married and have that commitment when you're raising kids, and that they know they have that security and stuff, and and that's a good thing. But my ex-wife and I, we raised the kids, and they got pretty much. My son got through his bachelor's, and my daughter was partway through hers, and through college, and. It's kind of like, okay, what do we want to do now that the kids are gone, because they were all in college, and she wanted to add on, do her kitchen remodel and redo the pool, and we had a big house in Walnut Creek, and I'm kind of like, well, let's move to something more manageable. I was getting into backpacking, as you know, or hiking, and bicycling, and so I wanted to do the adventures. I wanted to travel and see things, and she didn't. And I was spending money on that she wasn't too excited about, and she wanted to spend money on the house that I wasn't excited about. And so I thought it was and I think she does too, was a good decision to split up so we could manage our own money. And I think I'm on good relationship with her, and I'm going to visit her in January next month. So, so I think it's good when the kids are growing up, if you can. And I know Patty's situation was different just because of that particular situation, but I think marriage is good for that. But otherwise, I think I don't think it's that necessary. And being 2 independent people, I think this is a really good way to be.
Right. Patty, how do you choose which are sim adventures versus which are Patty adventures? Like, how's your thought process on that?
When we're together, or?
No, in other words, like when you decide, I want to go, that's an adventure I want to join in on. And no, I'll pass on that one. You go on your own.
Well, I wait for the invite.
Well, I'm sure there's an open invitation to a certain extent, right? I mean,
well,
is he going to say, like, he's not going to, if you say, hey, I want to hike the Continental Divide Trail with you, which Sim has done about 60% so far, I mean, he's probably going to say, yeah, sure, why not? I mean, are you Sim, or are you going to say, no, I got to go solo?
Oh, he'd say I'd go solo. This is totally one of the benefits of this relationship. He knows, and I know, where the independent line goes. I kiddingly always say to him, don't ever ask me. I mean, I don't need 5-star hotel, but I'm never sleeping on the ground with you. Don't even ask me.
No, but all I'm saying is that if you wanted to, like, let's say you had a change of heart, Patty, and you wanted to go, and you say, yeah, I'll sleep on the floor in the dirt or whatever, I mean, is he going to say no?
He might.
You know, I might. I mean, I would accept her, and we'd probably go, you know, maybe once or twice. But I really enjoy hiking by myself, as you probably do, and, you know, doing things at my own level. And then I really enjoy seeing her after I beat up and I'm tired, and, you know, and it's kind of like, okay, come back and recuperate. And here's Patty, and she's got her house and, you know, her place, and she's got her family, and it's neat visiting them. And so it's a nice home base. You know, I'm home free and car free and job free, so homeless. So it's wonderful to come back. But yeah, for me to go backpacking, I want to go by myself, pretty much, even without other people. Now we do have certain places. She loves Ashland, Oregon. I usually go every year to see the Shakespeare Festival, although COVID kind of shut it down this year. But we love Ashland so much, we went up anyway, and we just hung out there for 3 weeks.
In fact, we hadn't seen each other in 8 months because of COVID.
Wow.
And it was Ashland where I gave in, because he said, well, you know, the Shakespeare plays are not happening. So now what do you want me to do with those tickets? I said, send it, because it is Ashland and I'm going. Whether you go or not, Ashland, it calls me.
What's so special about Ashland? I remember it, but it's...
I don't really know.
Well, why not live there? Why San Diego?
It's
cold.
Well,
It's on our list.
It is on my list.
Okay.
I have 2 daughters and 5 grandkids, and
they're all in the San Diego area.
Yeah, and I physically take care of my ex-husband. He's ill, so that keeps me. You know,
I see.
Would I go to Ashland of my own? I've thought about it. It actually is a little out of my financial pocket. But
What do you mean? Is it more expensive than San Diego?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
I know.
No.
Stunned me too. Trust
What?
me.
No.
Trust me. Yeah. We've done our homework.
Yeah, it's very upscale for me. Yeah, upscale. I mean, there's a university nearby, so a lot of and then the Ashland, a lot of actors and a lot of people are involved, musicians.
How much does, let's say, a 2-bedroom place cost there to buy it? For
It's
example?
probably to rent. It's
Or
probably
rent to
about the places we were looking, maybe $4,000 a month.
What?
No, I don't think it's that high, but it's higher than San Diego, 1 or 2 bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And the other thing is that I feel safe there. When I travel with him, I'm always aware of where he's at, eye-wise, if not physically, especially international. But in Ashland, he goes to the plays, I go have lunch, I go, it just has a comfort level that I can't explain.
They have fabulous restaurants, and they have a cabaret there, which we actually got to go. They had COVID-friendly, respectful cabaret, so we got to see that, and nice hikes. There's a big hill nearby, and the Pacific Crest Trail goes right next to that, near that. So we go up there.
What about a sim? You mentioned that you're car free. Now, some people who are also very independent, they love to travel, that kind of stuff, have cars. They, in fact, have vans oftentimes, and they live in those vans. What's your mental calculus as far as why did you decide to go car free versus having, let's say, a van or some sort of car to live in and call that your quote unquote home? I
think when I do specific tours, usually I'll be taking public transportation or car or airplane or whatever. But if I'm out by myself, like right now, I'm renting a Turo car for $14 a day. And then when I'm not with Patty, then generally I just go to a Walmart and sleep in it. Mm-hmm. So, it's $14 a day to sleep, for a place. So it's the calculation is how long am I going to be there and where am I going? And we did a month-long trip up in Oregon, down the coast and up, and we rented a Eurovan. And that was really nice, except it didn't have a toilet. So we just 2 months ago, we were up in Montana, and we rented a truck camper from Cruise America with the big sign on the picture on the side, and we did Glacier, Yosemite, and Jackson, and for about 3
and that
weeks.
had a toilet
and a shower.
I see. How much was that?
It was $75 a day and 34 cents a mile. So it's you could stay in a hotel for $100 and you're good.
Right.
Yeah.
Any kind of car tips for people who are thinking about also doing a long trip or living out of their car? Because one of the problems with the $14 a day car, those kind of cheap little sedans, is that they're not very comfortable to sleep in. So any tips? I mean, obviously you could have splurged more, but at that point you're starting to get prices of a hotel practically once you start spending like $100 on a car that allows you to sleep in comfortably.
Yeah, after sleeping on the side of the trail for so long, I was pretty good about just putting the seat back, and it didn't go all the way back, but it was about 80%. So I have my sleeping quilt from my backpacking and my jackets, my down jackets. And
what about your feet, to elevate your feet a little bit?
I didn't.
You don't, really?
No. Sometimes I put my feet up
do
on
you,
the dash.
Do you go in the passenger seat or the driver?
No, driver's seat. And
why? Why not the passenger? Because then you got the steering wheel in your way.
Oh, that's true. But I put the steering wheel up, and that doesn't seem to get in the way. I tried to crawl in the back, and that didn't work so well. But when COVID hit, we were supposed to do a cruise with Karis and Keeler, which we've done every year for the last 6 years, and he had to cancel it. So Patty didn't want to. She was pretty concerned about COVID, so I rented a car after I did half of the Florida Trail, about 500 miles of it, and then rented a car and went around Florida for about a month, and just got a rental car. You know, it was a regular car, $18 a day, I guess, and just went from Whole Foods to Whole Foods. And slept in emergency hospital parking lots.
Oh, really? You can do that?
Yeah.
So then
because they don't know if you're there to stay overnight.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess you could say, if they knocked on your window, that you could say, I got my mother.
Yeah, my wife is giving birth, and something like that. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good tip. I like
there's
that.
good food, and yeah.
What do you mean good food in the hospital?
No, at Whole Foods.
Oh,
just go to Whole Foods and file up.
So you mentioned Walmart, emergency, hospital parking, and then where else is a good place?
Rest stops.
Yeah, we did rest stops a few times.
Okay.
You just pull off to the side. There's a good one north of San Diego. And
aren't there rest stops that say you're not allowed to do overnight, quote unquote, camping?
They limit you to 8 hours, and then every 8 hours every 3 days at the one rest stop.
But you've never been, quote unquote, caught or told to move. You probably never even pushed it that far.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I was just we were up at Golden Gate Park, and there's vans all along the Lincoln and what is that, Fulton? You know, they're just lined up.
Right.
Of course.
And what about for showers? What's your strategy there?
I do one like you about every 2 weeks, unless I'm with Patty.
Hey, don't
every
insult
day.
me. It's every 3 weeks.
Yeah, I thought it was 40 days you went without a shower in the CDT.
That's true.
That's
I think
my
it's
goal.
45 days.
45 days, my goal.
It was over 40 days for sure. But I did take bird showers. What I call bird showers is when you you lock yourself into a bathroom, and then you use the sink to kind of like splash water in under your armpits and your genitals and your feet.
Yeah.
You clean, basically, it feels like 80% of a shower. It's quite effective.
Yeah, get a paper towel and load it with soap and put it underneath.
I never did that.
Yeah.
No, I just use soap. I mean, I just use soap and
soap in your hands. Yeah.
Just soap in my hands. I mean, it's just like in a shower.
I mean, when you're hiking, you don't do showers every day, and you just hike.
Right.
And so I kind of got used to that.
Do you use wet wipes?
No.
Okay.
No.
No deodorant?
No.
Does he stink, Patty?
It's 2 ounces that he's not willing to carry.
That's heavy.
But I'm talking about also when you have a car. I mean, it's not heavy when you have a car.
Yeah, I still don't carry it. I mean, I'm a minimalist, so I've got everything down to one small roll along, and a backpack, and one travel backpack, and probably a backpack for hiking, and a bicycle.
One thing I would think about is you having, let's say, a membership at 24-Hour Fitness.
Yeah.
And use the showers and...
Yeah, I'd go to YMCA and get a week long, however long I'm there.
What do you think about that strategy?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, and then you can use the gym.
You can use the gym. I mean, it's like a win-win. You got the gym. I guess you don't get to use if it's 24-hour parking, I mean, you could park there. Because a lot of 24-hour fitnesses, they're not 24 hours, but they're pretty close to 24 hours. They're like 20-hour gyms. And you could theoretically really milk that one. And it's only like $50 a month.
Yeah, yeah.
Or,
and I got
less.
a pass at the YMCA in Sioux City, Iowa. Actually got a tent site. Sometimes that helps, and that's only like $10.
Have you
at a KOA or something like that?
Okay, that was gonna be my next question. Is like, when do you ever decide to, let's say, pay for car camping? Because sometimes it feels sacrilegious when there's so much free spots you can just park your car almost anywhere.
Yeah, I was up along the coast south of Laguna by called Crystal Cove, and I ran away from home there. And that's Patty was telling you the story of when I ran away, and I ran away there. So I went back for remembrance, and I stayed at the state campground, and that was, I think it was $30 actually. But I just pull up onto the campsite, and it's safe, and it's protected, and nobody wakes you up, and then I just sleep in the car. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah, so that campgrounds are really good. So
when do you decide, in other words, to spring? Because sometimes, like, to me, $30, I'm like, shit, that's like halfway through to a hotel practically.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, how do I decide to, like, I want to have...
I did it for sentimental reasons because I
So that was just a one-off?
Kind of a one-off, yeah. Okay. Generally, it'll...
generally you'll avoid those places.
I'll avoid those, and mainly it's for security. If I don't feel like... safe. Somebody's going to, not that somebody's going to rob me, but somebody's going to break in. And I'm sorry, somebody's going to wake me up and say, hey, you're not supposed to be here, get out, and I don't like that. So I may go to a more, where I pay that they don't hassle me.
I think the advantages of those places is if you have like an RV and you need to like do waste disposal or charge your electronics or charge your thing, right? I mean, isn't that part of what you get, or you have to, I guess, pay extra? I don't know.
Yeah,
exactly. I just never really understand. Like, I mean, I guess it's security, and I guess also you sometimes you have to pay for, like, the bathroom, like a shower. You have to pay for like $2 per.
Yeah,
minute.
Montana, we got a non-resident permit, and so we got a discount on the places when we stayed at the Montana state parks, and it was like $14, sometimes $18, and they're fabulous places, alongside the lakes and really nice. So it depends if they have state parks, which are much nicer, I think, than the private ones. But we stayed in a couple KOA places too. But generally, roadside rest stops are good. It's
completely non sequitur here, but it just, when you said Montana, for some reason, I popped into my mind that your son was looking for that $2 million treasure by Forrest, what's his name? Forrest?
I forgot. Yeah, it was just
the guy. Anyway, and that it was found, and
they found it.
And the dude, what's his name? Forrest guy died. The old man died.
Yeah,
90 years old or whatever he is. He's close to 90, 89, 90.
Yeah.
So, but did your son make any comment about that?
Yeah, he went out. I think it was Montana, Rocky Mountains, where he was looking, and he thought he had it.
It's not in Montana. It was found in Wyoming.
Was it Wyoming?
Yeah.
I think it was in that area. And but they didn't say exactly where it was.
Correct.
So once they do, then he can go, oh damn, I was right there. Or
no, he definitely was not right there because he was in the wrong fucking state.
Well. He was doing Wyoming and Montana.
Okay,
the Yellowstone.
No, Yellowstone is probably, it's either in or around Yellowstone.
Yeah, and the Forrest guy, I guess he worked up there in one of the places for,
and his family also. I mean, he was there as a kid.
There. Okay.
In other words, his father had either hotels or whatever. They had a business that was right off of Yellowstone. And so he grew up there fishing as a teenager, and it was a formative years. Anyway,
you called me and wanted me to head out with you. And
I wanted to go look for it. And before we could even get going, first of all, COVID hit. Yeah. And second of all, some asshole found it.
He found it. Good on him. Yeah.
But anyway, it's non sequitur. But I mean, I have a podcast about it.
That was good.
That was with Dahl Neitzel.
Yeah.
Very fun guy. I love that guy. It was great.
Yeah, he does the pot.
So tell us about your recent adventures, Patty. I don't know which ones you went. I know that you mentioned Ashland, but apparently there's also Morocco, Camino Santiago, Glacier National Park, Yellowstone, Jackson. So I don't know which ones of these were you on with Sim.
All of them. And probably the one that's most mentionable is Morocco because it was my suggestion. And being protected and naive growing up, I had no idea quite how third world it was. I just thought it would be so pretty, and it was just down from Spain, and oh my gosh, let's just go. I mean,
Right.
So we got there, and oh boy, too much for me. Too much
funny.
third world, too much crowd, too much stench, too much dirt, too much.
Which is so funny because for me, when I hear Morocco, because I've been to all 54 African countries, I'm like super posh.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's second world country.
Yeah, exactly. So
Yeah.
if Morocco's third world, then I don't know. The rest of much of Africa is like sixth world.
Yeah. Well, I did introduce this with naive and
I know.
in the box. So, we
So
get off the plane.
You picked Morocco.
I picked
out
Morocco.
of a romantic notion of like.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
I showed her the movie "The Man Who Knew Too Much" with James Stewart and Doris Day,
Yeah.
and they get
Casablanca.
the kid kind of Casablanca. Yeah, kid gets kidnapped. But
Yeah. So I'm not in the country. 30 minutes from the airport, we catch the bus.
Which airport was in Casablanca?
Marrakesh.
Okay, Marrakesh.
Yeah, we flew to Marrakesh.
Okay, nice. And then
And the bus is like the Volkswagen and the clowns. I mean,
clowns.
Where the clowns
how
get
many
in all
clowns
the
can
little.
you fit in a Volkswagen?
Oh,
Bug.
okay. I don't know the
Oh
expression.
yeah! Oh my gosh!
Okay.
And they just kept shoving me, back into the corner, and it was like, oh dear God! And Sim tells me then and to today, I was so proud of you. I said, well, shit, what?
I had no choice.
And thank you, exactly.
There's something to be proud of when you have no choice.
Exactly. And so we get out of the bus and we walk to.
Well, wait. Now, when we were in the bus, people were really friendly, and they gave us special place for gave a special spot for Patty, and let us put our luggage up. But they were still cramming us all in, and to get out, it was.
This is the airport.
No, this is the bus, kind of going from the airport towards our hotel.
So wait, how did you get out of the airport if it's kind of
We
the
just
airport?
walked. We walked a long ways. I looked at my Google Maps, and it said, "Oh yeah, you just walk here and pick up the bus, and it's like 10 cents versus a taxi, which is $2 for goodness sakes."
Yeah, no, that's a total ripoff.
So I learned the hard way, and Patty learned the hard way.
Yeah, so we went from the bus.
By the way, just a little tip. Yeah, I remember I took a Uber in Egypt. I crossed like most of Cairo for like $2 on an Uber.
Oh my
It was
goodness.
amazing, so cheap.
Uber there. Oh my God.
But anyway, so then you get into this crammed bus in Marrakesh. You arrive at your hotel.
No, we just got off the bus trying to find the hotel at like 10 at night and walking through stench and trash and people and this guy stops us and says, hey, are you looking for the so-and-so inn? And it was like, yeah. I say to Sim today, gosh, did we look that much American tourist? Obviously, quite obviously.
Yeah.
So he walks us down the back alley and left and right, and we get there. And the office gal says, oh, I'm sorry, your reservation is tomorrow night. And Sim is like, no, I don't think so. It is tomorrow night and tonight. Oh, well, I've already given that away. La, 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 la. So
Are
she
you sure,
finds us.
in retrospect, was she right or were you right?
We were right. We had paid, I think it was like $10, $12, $20 a night maybe, and she could rent it out for $60. So she canceled ours, rented out to this other guy, and I talked to him. And
Oh, really? You found the guy who took your room?
Yeah. And he says, oh, yeah, I paid $60 a night for this. And I go, good on you, man. So she got us to another place, and we stayed there. And
But not for, did you have to pay for it? Or
No.
Okay, they just
No,
honored
it
the
turned out
reservation.
okay. It was just the hassle of going to
Yeah, of
another
course.
one.
Did you have to get into it? Could you walk there?
Yes.
Okay.
The guy who found us on the street guided us there, which was very kind. But
And did he ask for money at the end? Bakshish.
no,
Oh,
no.
wow.
And the gentleman
That's nice
whose
of him.
home it was older and very polite. I mean, I was very impressed. But as Sim got in the shower when we arrived there, I pulled the bed sheets back. Bed bugs in Morocco. Okay, so this is why I have a little bit of a problem with the country.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
How many days did you end up spending in Morocco?
A full week.
Okay. And then were you able to leave Marrakesh, or did you spend most of the time? Did you get to the high Atlas Mountains?
We were at the base of the Atlas Mountains.
Yeah, I know. That's right
we
there.
went to the Blue City.
Okay. Chefchaouen?
Chefchaouen.
Chefchaouen.
Chefchaouen. Yeah. And that
That's
was
kind of
nice.
far, though. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a
yeah.
haul.
Yeah, we took the train up and then the buses over, and that was a lot of fun. And, and we,
Shawshan's beautiful.
Yeah. I mean, it's real touristy, but we don't care. We're tourists.
Yeah.
And then we did the camel ride where we get all dressed up.
Where
was it? It wasn't at Marrakesh. We went up to Casablanca and Algiers and over to Chefchaouen.
Algiers,
I'm sorry, Tangiers.
Tangiers, yes.
Yeah. You spent you were hiking up in the Atlas Mountains.
I walked across the entire range.
I know.
From one end to the other.
I was. That would have been nice. I was very jealous.
Yeah, that was a tough hike. Oh, fascinating hike. I remember at one point, which was so interesting, was when I really swore that I was utterly in the middle of nowhere, and then I reach a village, like high in the mountains, and there's no way to get to that village by any car. I mean, you literally have to walk there or take a mule, to get there, and it's so isolating. Like, wow, this is really incredibly remote, and you get to meet the villagers. That was fascinating. It's a beautiful, beautiful hike, a very difficult hike because there's no organized trail, so I kind of had to wing it most of the way, and there were times there where it was a bit challenging. But the one thing that's nice about backpacking in the wilderness, if you do it enough, you start to speak the language of nature. In other words, you start to understand, I know there's going to be water right here. You start to feel like, okay, that's got to be a good a place. You follow the contours. You just kind of read nature. You read the trail, not the trail, even if there's no trail. You just read the landscape, and you just kind of get a feeling for it, and it feels so comfortable, and you don't feel the sense of despair that I think people who don't have much wilderness experience. All of a sudden they get this sense of despair, like, oh my God, I'm going to get eaten by the wolves or whatever, and all sorts of other things that they panic. But once you've done it enough, I'm sure you've gotten to that point.
I did that on the CDT when I had to come off, and we can talk about that later.
Yeah, tell us now. Just say no.
Oh, I was hiking on the CDT.
Where?
It was by the Winds.
The Wind River Range?
Wind River, yeah, and through the Wind River. Not on the circuit, but on the regular trail. And I got...
When you say circuit, you mean up on the ridge?
There's a tower circuit. I think it's an off trail.
Okay.
And I didn't do it this time, but I'm going to go back and do
this
that.
This is where you nearly died.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. We should have started off this whole podcast with this thing. When I remember when I'm reading down on Facebook, I'm like, I've got to talk to Sim about this near-death experience. Because is it fair to say this is the closest you got to death in your whole life?
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I mean, it was. I honestly didn't feel I was close to death, but it was dicey. I mean, I got food poisoning and I couldn't eat, and I was throwing up, and I was extremely fatigued, and I was hiking on the CDT, and I said, okay, I've got to get off trail, and there was a side trail, and I talked to a number of people, and they seemed to indicate the trail would go down to the where I could catch a ride to Pinedale, Wyoming. And it was only 10 miles, and I thought, big deal. So I go down the side trail, and it disappeared. It just stopped. And so I kept going.
Really? That is so weird, Sid.
Yeah.
To me, when you say side trail, I mean, you're going downhill.
Yeah,
right?
downhill.
And is it a real trail or kind of like a animal trail?
It was a real trail. Start off with. Yeah.
How could it just run? I mean, that's very rare.
Well, actually, I think it went to a lake. And then people go, oh, here's the lake, and they camp out and do stuff. And, then I continued on around the lake, and the path went around the lake.
Right, but then it stopped.
And then it pretty much stopped, although, there's animal trails and stuff.
Right.
And so I kind of just followed it.
Okay, that makes sense now.
Yeah.
Okay, so just to reiterate, you followed a trail downhill.
Yeah.
That you thought was going to go all the way to civilization, hit a paved road.
Yeah.
But instead... it just ended at a lake.
Yeah.
And that makes sense because there are lots of dead-end trails that end at lakes and that people camp and then they hike back up the trail. And
somebody showed me a map, and I'd taken a picture of it, and it looked like this is, there was a trail going through. Yeah, on that one map. And then I had another map that didn't show that. And I thought, well, this is an old map, or they just don't show all the trails.
Right.
And I had the GPS, with a gut hook, and I could see where the
Contours?
Concourse, but it didn't
The
show that
contours.
trail. Contours, yeah, had all the contours, and it showed the trail, another trail going into, that went to Pinedale. And so it was in a valley, and I could go. I went down the valley and crossed the river a few times, which was pretty dicey.
It was a fast-moving river?
Fast-moving river.
How deep was it?
It was
like
probably,
ankle deep?
It got up to my waist.
Oh, wow. It's pretty deep.
Yeah, so it's pretty deep.
And what month was this?
This was in August.
Okay.
Wasn't it August? Yeah. Something like
but the
that.
bottom line is, okay, so
So
at
there's
least
lots of mosquitoes.
You could never have done it in June, though, because that water would be just furious in June.
Yeah. No, it wasn't it June. The snow. There was still a lot of snow up above.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was,
so the water was
post-holing.
about as high as it could go.
Yeah, it was pretty high.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe it wasn't August. It must have been. Or there's snow in June actually. I mean August. Sorry, there's snow on the CDT.
Yeah.
Especially in the Wind River.
Yeah,
range.
no, it was the beginning of August because
Okay,
I was waiting for the snow.
And there was
to go.
lots of mosquitoes.
And lots of mosquitoes, and I had a head net on,
Nice.
but then I threw up into the head net.
Oh, sweet.
So,
Like, how does that happen, Sim? Like, don't you know you're going to throw up? Don't you have a second where you could lift the fucking head?
I thought I would, but I didn't.
Are you serious? Because were you delirious? Is that why? Or because you're just like, you just didn't
kind of not. I don't know if I was delirious, but when you wear the head net, a lot of times you get used to it and you
Right.
don't realize you have it on. But again,
until you vomited
it was a quick one. It was kind of like, okay, So anyway, but I cleaned it out and had to reuse it.
So while you're cleaning it out, you're getting bitten and
Bitten and everything. And,
but you were feeling nauseous at that point.
Yeah, I was nauseous. I couldn't eat anything.
So wait, okay, let's take a step back. Were you closer to your next resupply, or are you closer to the one you just came from?
I was closer to the one I came from.
Okay, so you had just left and maybe spent 1 or 2 overnights?
Yes.
Okay. So you had done 1 or 2.
So I'd gone about 3 nights.
Oh, 3 nights, okay.
Yeah, and
you had about 2 days worth of food, maybe 1 day?
Well, you know me with the food. I just carry nuts and seeds. So I had lots of food, but it's nuts and seeds.
You don't eat much food.
So I don't eat. No, I don't.
I don't understand.
And so that's probably.
He's like a bird.
Yeah. Well, I camel up before, so I'm all stuffed with everything, and they had wonderful restaurant where I was, kind of an organic place. So I had Brussels sprouts and all that.
Okay.
And so I was pretty well fed. But then I must have gotten some food poisoning because I couldn't eat at all.
Okay, so you think you got the food poisoning where?
It might have been in Wyoming
Maybe at your previous resupply point.
Yes.
But that doesn't make sense, Sim. I didn't think that. I'll ask Patty. Patty, you're kind of in the medical field. You're a dentist, a dental assistant. When you get food poisoning, Patty, doesn't the reaction to food poisoning usually happen in less than 24 hours? It doesn't happen 3 fucking days later.
Definitely.
So he's full of shit.
Well, that's true.
I say that's why he's that tall with those color eyes.
So I don't believe this food poisoning hypothesis.
No, and he didn't either originally, because when he finally got out and decided to come to San Diego to recover and see about medical for it, he was thinking it was a food sensitivity reaction.
Sim, do you still believe that it's food poisoning?
Yeah, because I couldn't eat the nuts and seeds. I mean, it just turned my stomach and I'd get sick. But after I recovered, after I got out, and it was a couple of weeks after that. Now I love them. I'm back eating them and everything.
That doesn't
so
mean
I'm
anything.
not.
I don't buy that.
And I've been eating them every day.
Okay, but that doesn't prove food poisoning.
Well, it's something else. It wasn't food sensitivity, is what I'm saying. It was something else that hit my stomach and hit my esophagus. I've got Barrett's syndrome. So.
What did the doctor say when you? He said Barrett's syndrome, right?
Well, I've been diagnosed with Barrett's syndrome.
Previously, you're saying?
Yeah,
years
previously,
ago.
yeah.
Years ago.
And I tried to get an endoscopy in San Diego.
Endoscopy is when they go down your throat?
Yeah, down your throat, and they check out your esophagus to see what's going on. I thought I was having a reaction with my esophagus, which I did, but I think it was because of the food poisoning or because of something that hit me. And so I went in tried to get that, and it was like 3 weeks to get an appointment. By that time, I was in Oregon with Patty, and then it took another 3 weeks to get something there. And by that time, I was in Montana, and it took 3 weeks, and finally, and then I was in Wisconsin in Madison, And that took 3 weeks, and then I said, "The heck with it," because I'm trying. So now I'm set for March. I've signed.
Oh,
up.
you still haven't done it.
I still haven't done it, but I don't have any issue. I mean, there's no problems with it, and I'm eating nuts and seeds.
So So you know Christopher McCandless, the guy who went on that Alaska trip and never came back.
Yeah, with the grizzlies. With the bus.
With the bus. Into the Wild by John Krakauer. He got poisoned through eating bad potatoes.
Yes.
Okay, so that is an example of food poisoning. He ate potatoes that had, some spurs or whatever growing in them, and they were poisonous, and it totally broke down his system, and he died, ultimately, of some sort of... Anyway, he was a skinny little skeleton by the time they found his body. That makes sense, but for you to go off for 3 days of hiking and then suddenly develop symptoms... Unless the food that you were carrying was poisoned of some sort, like either like these potatoes that, become old and spoiled and you're eating that shit.
No, I had some of the symptoms initially, and it just got worse and worse.
So you're saying as soon as you left town, it was...
Then I was feeling that. So that could be it.
Okay,
so it could be.
Okay.
And it was Lander, Wyoming, where I got the stuff.
Yeah. Oh, so you bought the food in Lander, Wyoming. And pretty much soon, within less than 24 hours after leaving Lander, you started feeling a bit bad, slightly.
Yeah, slightly bad, and then it just
and it was in your stomach.
Yeah, stomach and esophagus.
Oh, okay.
It would go.
And then then the next day you're like, oh, don't worry, it'll go away, and it just didn't.
And I had projectile vomiting.
Projectile vomiting.
Yeah, projectile vomiting through my nose too.
Really?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
That's pretty awesome. Awesome. Like,
it was awesome.
Like
the fountain of
snot coming out to your nose on your mosquito net, your head net. You progressively got worse. Okay, that changes. So now all of a sudden I'm starting to buy your food poisoning idea a little bit more. No, because it just sounded like the way you originally described it. Maybe I wasn't a good listener. It sounded like just out of the blue, and 3 days later, all of a sudden you start going spiraling
it was
downhill.
a progressive thing.
Okay, fine. So now it makes a little bit more sense. Although I don't know if does food poisoning have such a thing. You're shaking your head, Patty. In other words,
to my knowledge, food poisoning is a 24-hour estimate. Yeah,
right. It just comes and goes. It's like you feel like shit, and it either kills you or you just poop it out.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
And then you move on. So for it to be kind of this long term.
I mean, 3 days is what, 72 hours?
Yeah, it seems like that doesn't make any sense.
Well, I think I was fatigued. I was really tired, and I hadn't had food for like 7 days then. Because I really didn't eat much when I got on the trail for 3 days.
And then you didn't have food for 7 days.
Well, I wasn't hungry at all, and usually I don't eat much. And
for 7 days, and you're hiking?
Yeah. I went 3 days, and I ate very little, and then I was 5 days to get off to go 10 miles, because I'd walk about 10 yards, and 50 yards, and I'd have to stop. And
this is on your third day when you started really getting fucked up.
Yeah.
This is after you got to that lake and you started. Were you bushwhacking to try to get out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were trying to bushwhack, and so the reason was that you were making such slow progress. Was it because you didn't know where the trail was, Sim, or because you were fatigued, or both?
I was fatigued. I didn't know where the trail was. I could see where I had to go.
Okay, in the distance. Was it just...
Well, no, I had GPS, and I could see, I've got to get over to this point, and it's just a matter of getting there. And, I had a river below me, and I knew I had to get over the ridge, and I had to look for a place where I could climb the ridge, and it was just a steep cliff. And there was a steep cliff coming down into the valley.
Why couldn't you follow that river?
Well, it turned into more of, really steep on both sides. And kind of a waterfall type, that kind of thing. And so it made sense. I finally had to go up on the ridge for a while and then climb the ridge, kind of hand over fist, being fatigued.
Are you looking back on all this? Do you think what would you have done differently?
I don't think I would have done anything differently. I mean, I had enough food. I had enough water. I did run out of water one time, but then I came into a spring and I got that. But I knew where I was going to go. I didn't I didn't feel the need that I had to call, 911 or, have people come and pick me up. And I wouldn't just stay in one place and wait for people to come because nobody would come. So
What do you mean nobody's going to come?
Well, there's no trail there. No.
Yeah, but I mean, the rescue services.
They could, but it wasn't worth it. I was okay. I wasn't dying. I wasn't in any pain. I just couldn't eat, and I was just tired.
But I mean, you're really fucking tired if you can walk 50 meters and you got to take a break.
Yeah, but then I take a break and then I'm okay, and then I walk.
How long did it take you to walk 50 meters? Would it take you?
Well, it took me 5 days.
That's half a football field, so a healthy person can walk 50 meters in like 10 seconds or 20 seconds.
Yeah. Well, walking, it wasn't too bad, but then I'd get fatigued and I have to sit down, and I'm breathing really hard. And
I'm sorry, just now the light bulb went off. What if that was COVID?
I got
to get onset that quick?
That's what I was thinking, but then I got tested for COVID in San Diego when I got there, but then it took 18 days to get the results back, and it was negative, but who knows?
I don't think it's
No,
COVID.
I don't think it was COVID, but I was thinking it might be.
The symptoms don't seem to match because the symptoms of COVID require that you're like often, don't require, but often are like coughing. He wasn't really coughing. He was vomiting, but he didn't seem to have like the classic respiratory issues. He seemed to have like track issues, so go ahead.
Yeah, just that I've recently heard that, almost any symptom now these days is COVID, but it just dawned on me when he was talking about the severe fatigue.
Right.
That's the second issue I've heard.
Right.
But I did not have a fever. I wasn't no temperature.
Right. And your sense of smell is supposed to go away.
Sense of smell was good,
and
breathing. I wasn't. It wasn't like I couldn't breathe. Yeah. I was breathing probably too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you were kind of going on a straight line, so you might have gone only about 10 miles total as the crow flies.
I'd have to look. Crow from the trail, getting off the trail to the trailhead was about, where I finally got off was about 10 miles.
Right. And
it took
to those
5 days.
Right. 5 days. And people might, obviously you were sick and you were, very weak. I mean, there's a lot of times where I've been in really remote, difficult places, fucking Madagascar, when I was going up the tallest mountain of Madagascar, which you weren't on that particular journey. Mm-hmm. But I swear, I mean, we were probably doing like 1 kilometer every 2 hours or 3 hours. I mean, it was just so slow because I had to bushwhack physically. So you had a different struggle. You didn't need a machete to cut a trail. The path was tricky. You said you had to use your hands at times.
Yeah, no, it was both. I didn't have a trail, so I was bushwhacking and trying to find the way, and I was climbing boulders and
When
stuff.
you say bushwhacking, you were literally pushing aside bushes and things like that? And
in some places.
Okay.
Yeah. And other places, going up over boulders or across the creek.
Down trees.
Trying to find the trail. And you go, the trail is here. And it was weird. I was telling Patty, I was listening to the Bible, and in the Old Testament, they talk about going to the land of milk and honey. And so every time I'd go up, there's a ridge and there's it's blue sky. That's the land of milk and honey. And I'd get up there and there's another ridge above that and another one and another one. So it's probably like the Israelites. They look for the land.
So you said that you weren't actually fearful of your life of actually.
No. I was okay.
And that, of course, comes from your experience of.
I knew I could get down. I had enough food. I had warm enough clothes. There was water.
But at the same time, you could have potentially really spiraled downward even faster. I mean, you were lucky in some sense because it sounds like whatever symptoms you had, whatever thing you had, was kind of really knocking you down on your pedestal 1 notch, 2 notches, 3 notches. On the 3rd day, you were pretty screwed up, Sim.
Yes.
And then, so theoretically, had you continued your progression, you could have gotten really bad on the 4th day and 5th day, really to the point of being immobile. You don't know.
It could have been, possibility.
In other words, so you felt confident at that moment, but the next one more night, you said how many days of hiking?
5.
5 days
after I got up. So it was about 8 days, I guess, altogether.
You're right, 8 days.
3 days before.
So it could have easily gone a lot worse for you.
It could have.
Had you really, truly continued your downward trajectory. At some point, to a certain extent, correct me if I'm wrong, your symptoms more or less stabilized to a certain extent?
I think so. I mean, I was just hungry, but
they weren't getting what.
Actually, I wasn't hungry.
You weren't hungry. You had food with you.
I had food. Yeah.
When you got back to civilization, did you still have food with you, or did you had
I had lots of food.
Okay, so when you say you're hungry, what do you?
I didn't have enough. I was weak. Yeah.
Right. And food wasn't helping you get stronger.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Did you feel like when you put the food in your mouth, did you feel like vomiting?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I just couldn't get it down, or if I did, then I'd vomit.
Right.
So so that's something with the food. I mean, before
I've heard of things like stomach flu. I don't know, Patty. Have you heard of stomach flu?
Yeah, but not to that severity or for 5 days.
Yeah. Because I've had what I've called stomach flu, but it's happened like 3 times in my life where I literally vomited. One time I vomited 11 times.
Wow.
And then another time I vomited, I think 17 or 18 times. I mean, literally by the 8th vomit, I'm just spitting. There's nothing left in my stomach, but I'm just going through these dry heaves, just trying to vomit spit. Or if I try to hydrate, I'm just vomiting out water. It's like a spasm in your stomach.
Yeah, and it's a possibility it could be the water. I may have gotten some bad water, but I've got an inline filter on my platypus, so I don't think that...
But do you purify all the water you come across?
Yeah, I mean, I have a filter it goes through, so I don't...
Oh, I see it. It automatically filters.
Yeah, automatically, so okay. I don't... that could. I mean, it could have gotten through, but...
I mean, waterborne diseases and illnesses are a very common way backpackers get screwed up.
Yeah, but I don't think it was Giardia. I had my...
No, Giardia has different symptoms.
Yeah, and I had my stool sample checked out when I got back in San Diego, Negative. And they didn't find anything. Yeah. So...
All right, lessons learned. What are your takeaways, advice for people listening to this?
Yeah, have your GPS and
how did you deal with batteries? Did you just have enough battery power for the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, battery was good. I had a separate.
Did you turn off to save your battery?
Yeah, I always put it on airplane mode, and it just lasts forever.
Okay.
And it works off of GPS, so. Mm-hmm. You don't need to be connected to a cell tower.
Right, but GPS does suck up some battery.
Yeah.
Given how slow your pace was, I would surprise that you just didn't turn off your phone for like an hour or two and just like turn it on after. But I guess you didn't. You had enough battery, so it didn't worry. If you were confident.
Yeah, I was fine.
Okay.
I mean,
you must have had a lot of battery. I mean, to last 8 days of battery, that's a lot of batteries.
Yeah. I had a separate, 10 milliamp hour battery.
When was the first time you found out about his ordeal?
He texted me and said he was on a plane on the way to San Diego because he needed medical attention.
That's it. That's how you found out. Damn. So he didn't even invite. He just invited. He just assumed you had an extra bed for him.
Well, this is kind of like just before I did a bicycle ride across the U.S. and I was in training in northern.
Wait, you were in training?
To take a bicycle ride across the U.S.
And your training was hiking in the woods?
No, and the training...
You didn't preempt this. He's backtracking a few years.
Yeah, back in 2014, I was going to ride across the U.S., and so I was riding the training on the Iron Horse Trail in the East Bay of San Francisco Bay. And for some reason, I think I hit a root or I stopped too suddenly. Anyway, the next thing I know, I was in the back of an ambulance and going to and they took me into emergency. It was only $50,000 for all the tests and everything.
What?
But I think his point is in the stupor of he didn't know what happened and why he was in the back of an ambulance. He actually telephoned me, which is a rarity, and said, just wanted to let you know I'm in the back of an ambulance on the way to the hospital, and I should be out tomorrow, but, I'm okay. 3 days later, I heard nothing till I had to track down his roommate.
Okay.
Sorry.
So here, once again, he's showing up and he's giving you a terse SMS saying, hey, I'm coming over for medical stuff. But when you saw him at the airport, was he already pretty good shape at that point? Did he look normal? Or did he look like shit?
I don't pick him up at the airport because he's dedicated to public transportation.
I see. Yes, of course. Yeah, that's true.
So I took the trolley back to.
No, but so when you saw him, how did he look? Did he look normal?
Pretty normal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
By that time, I mean, You had recovered a bit when you finally got. Was it Rollins? No, where did you? Not Lander. Where did you finally hit civilization?
I came back. I hitched a ride down to Pinedale, and then
How long did it take to get a hitch?
Not too bad.
20
just
minutes?
stuck out my thumb.
When you finally got that first hitchhike, you were sitting out there with your thumb. You had just finally hit the. I can imagine you're coming down this mountain or hill, and you saw the paved road, and you're like, hallelujah,
Yeah.
just got to keep getting there. And at that point, you were still walking. You were super debilitated. And
I was just tired. And actually, once I hit the trail.
What time of day? Was it the end of the day?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was probably it's about 3 in the afternoon.
Okay, so then you knew you could then get a hitch.
Yeah.
And you sat out there for maybe half an hour or so.
Yeah, it's only
Or
about
less.
15 minutes. I
Okay,
think.
got it. And then you got your hitch.
Yeah.
And when did you finally get any kind of medical attention?
I didn't.
What do you mean? So you just went to the airport and then flew to San Diego?
Flew to San Diego.
And by the time you got to San Diego, you're already feeling a lot better.
I did do a video call with my primary care doctor, and he told me to go, and I went to the urgent care to get my COVID test and a stool test.
Both negative?
Yeah. The stool test came back in a few days, and the COVID test came back in 18 days.
Right.
So, but I was feeling much better. It took a couple of weeks before I got back to normal, as far as my stomach.
Oh, okay. So what was happening then? You just had diarrhea or?
Not even diarrhea. Just stomach was just bad. I couldn't eat nuts and seeds for, maybe a month or two.
Wow.
Yeah, it took a long time.
So what were you eating?
Food.
Bread and whatever?
Yeah, actually I did end up eating bread, avocado toast, and salads. I did a lot of salads and stuff.
All right.
And sometimes omelets once in a while.
And for those who are listening, if you haven't listened to the other two podcasts I have with Sim, he is a vegan.
Well, 95% vegan.
Freegan.
Kind of vegan.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It just needed one more big knockdown.
Yeah.
And then you would have been incapacitated.
Exactly. If I broke a leg or something.
No. I'm just talking about if your symptoms went down another notch.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where now you can't even do 50 meters.
Yeah.
In 10 minutes. You can't do 5 meters in 10 minutes. Then you would have been fucked.
Exactly.
And so that's what I mean is that luckily you didn't hit that low level.
Yeah.
Because then that would have been the end of Sim.
Yeah.
But
and actually I carry an InReach Garmin. I usually had it, but the ride I took that got me to the trailhead from Lander, I accidentally left it in their car. Contacted him later, and he mailed it to me.
Oh, sweet!
So I got it back, but I didn't have that during that time. Although I didn't need it, I didn't think I wouldn't have used it even if I had it.
Well, you would have if you had gone to the point where it takes 10 minutes. I mean, like
So that was kind of dicey, but
yeah. So you had the InReach, but you unfortunately you were going to say something, Patty?
So we have a pack that with the InReach, when he texts me by phone that he's hitting the trail. And then he sends me a message by InReach every night. And so we have a pack that if I don't hear from him in 3 days, I contact his son with all the latitude. Yeah, thank you. Because Tim knows how to find all that where I don't. But
in this case, so you did not hear from Sim for several days.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't have my InReach. So
she didn't know that you didn't have the InReach.
Well, I had. There were some people on the trail that had a cell phone that got Verizon, so they were able to text her and say, "I'm okay. Don't have my InReach."
But at that point, you were not sick yet.
No, I was a little bit.
You're a little bit, but you didn't realize what you had ahead of you.
Exactly.
The other thing I was going to say is, when you talk about how does this relationship work, people say to me always, you don't worry about him? Probably the first year or two I did, and now this is what he does and this is where he's happiest.
Right.
And, when you say, gee, what if you went down one notch and the next is death? People say that to me all the time. What are you going to do?
Yeah, well.
You know what?
Yeah.
The man died happy.
Yeah. He died with chia seeds in his hand.
On his breath.
You see this? He's got electronics in his hand.
Chia in his hands and vomit on his headband. What more do you ever want? What a more blessed way of dying.
Life is good. Life is good.
Yeah. What about El Camino de Santiago de Compostela?
Yes, we hiked a few years ago. I think when we first started out in 2012, we hiked the last 100 kilometers so we could get the certificate of the Camino de Santiago.
You might backtrack to tell them that you had a friend who told you, if you want to introduce this lifestyle to Patty, she had taken her husband out on a tour, a guided tour of it. So the first time we went hiking or walking the Camino, it was, in a group tour. We're now, like we went last year and we just went solo together.
Oh, so your first time was with a tour?
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah.
That 100 kilometers.
100 kilometers. Yeah, they took our luggage from hotel to hotel, and it was like 3-star hotels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and
Nice.
a glass of wine, till 11 o'clock at night.
That's
I mean,
sweet.
it was all grand.
The tour guide would have a big
Took
bar.
like 10 days or less?
About 10 days, yeah.
So,
It's really
Tour guide had a big bar of chocolate on the top of the hill, and then and we'd get to the top, and she'd give us the chocolates. No, it was.
and I'm a walker already, and so when Sim told me, and actually it ended up being like a year and a half until we went when he invited me, and I thought, 10 miles, holy crap, I can't do that. I go, 2 or 3. So I worked up to 10, and then the highest night was 17, and people say, you did what? And, by the time you get out with the tour and there's other people and you meet other people, I don't need to tell you, you put one foot in front of the other and you're not even thinking about it.
Right.
So, but as I say, we went last year again.
Yeah, last year I did the French way, going from France to 800 kilometers or something like that. And then when Patty and I...
Starts at Saint-Jean-Pied-du-Port.
Yes,
Yeah.
very good. I met Patty in Lisbon, and we took...
Lisbon?
Yeah.
So you walked to Lisbon?
No.
No.
And then I took the train down to Lisbon and met Patty flying in.
Sorry,
there.
you started in Saint-Jean-Pied-du-Port and then you went...
And then I hiked and finished up the part I'd missed on the Camino de Santiago.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So
And
essentially, I'd completed that whole...
Got it. Okay.
The whole
You finished
French
the
way.
last section. I got it.
Yeah, and then I met Patty in Lisbon, and we took the train up to Camino de Santiago, and then we hiked to Finisterre together.
Okay.
Yeah.
You hiked. You took the train up to Santiago de Compostela.
Yeah, yeah,
And then from there you walked those 87 kilometers.
yeah,
Which is about
Yeah.
50 miles to the finish line.
Yeah.
I mean, to the end of the world.
yeah.
Finisterre is nice.
No, because it was actually 2. I got 2 certificates, and it was 85 miles. And I know this because I had a tracker, and in 3 or 4 weeks, I walked a total of 254 miles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
But from there, I think we took the train to Bilbao and San Sebastian, which I hiked
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
And we, hit the museums there, and that was just fabulous, the restaurants, and we did some hikes there. And then we flew from Bilbao to Marrakesh.
This was not... What year was this?
This is last year.
Okay, 2019. Back to your Wyoming experience, your ordeal there. How was it traveling during COVID? I mean, that must have been interesting as well.
Yeah.
Was it at all? I mean, or it's just wearing a mask? That's pretty much it.
Yeah, I had a mask and I'd wear it occasionally, but nobody else really did. It was
When you
there
say
was
you wear
no,
it occasionally, you're not going to wear it on the trail.
No,
But when you say occasionally, you mean occasionally in town?
Well, yeah, in town, and then when I'm hitchhiking, I've got it available. It's there. You can see it. I'm not completely covered.
What do you mean?
But-
You're wearing it on your chin? Kind
On
of
my
thing?
chin.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
So when I get in the car, I put it over my face, and then if they're not wearing it, or if they, it's kind of cowboy country, and the COVID really hadn't hit there yet,
Right.
at all. So I didn't do that.
I got a lot of shit when I said hike my own hike in 2020. So it was around end of March or April when COVID was really kind of picking up some traction as far as the press and a lot of doomsday scenarios were getting bandied about. And I was encouraging people. I said, "Hey, go out there and hike." Sim, I remember you. I was kind of cheering you. I think at that time you were in Florida,
Yeah.
hiking along there. And I got so much shit from so many people saying, wait, Francis, it's so irresponsible. Da, da, da. You should just stay home. And then some people said, it's okay to go hiking, but just day hikes. Or I'm like, well, what's the difference between a day hike and a long distance hike?
Exactly.
And to me, it was just such common sense. And nowadays, I think most of the planet understands what I was trying to say. I said to people, wear your mask whenever you're hitchhiking or in town, and also maybe wear gloves that are not disposable, but gloves that you use for the town, and then you put them in your backpack to let the UV rays disinfect them, out on the outside of your backpack when you're not in town. And to me, I just didn't see.
Well, exactly. And that the other thing is being susceptible and your immunity system down, that if you're in your house all the time, you don't get the vitamin D, the sun rays, and you don't get the sunshine. And I think you're just more susceptible if you do get it, or to other diseases too, sedentary diseases.
And now I understood that one of their points, which was fair, is that, you could potentially be a vector for the disease because you're bouncing from these little small communities. And so the phobia that people had was that these tiny little communities that are isolated, that don't have great medical care, will all of a sudden get this plague that will, infect the entire community and kill all sorts of people.
Yeah, and that affected me too, and that's why I stopped hiking the Florida Trail. You
had to stop because there was a state order.
There was a state order, but also I could have kept walking, but and just ducked around the tape and stuff. But I felt badly about that, so I rented a car and then just lived out of my car for a month or so.
And then you finally, that's when you ended up in Wyoming?
Yeah, then I flew to Wyoming.
Because it was still open for trail hiking.
Yeah. And then after that, actually I flew to Wisconsin and did the Ice Age Trail, about a quarter of the Ice Age Trail. And that goes from Lake Michigan to Minnesota.
Oh, right.
And I've got a bunch of relatives there, so I stayed with a couple of them.
How was the Ice Age Trail?
Oh, fabulous. Yeah.
I imagine it being super flat.
It's pretty flat. You go up over
hills.
a lot of the terrain, the moraine, they call it, from the glaciers that have built up. But, yeah. Who was our buddy that hiked that? It was his first hike.
It was Lint.
Yeah.
Lint done it. I think he's done it 2 or 3 times. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's like the Ice Age man.
Yeah, that was his first time, and it's a fabulous trail, and stop at some of the cemeteries, and all my relatives are buried there.
Patty, what do you are you going to take the vaccine when it becomes available? Because it's coming out pretty soon in the next couple of months for the general public.
Yeah. When it eventually trails down to me.
Okay.
I'm over 65, but I am not compromised.
Right. So basically, you have no issues with any of the flavors because there's several vaccines out, at least 2.
Right.
Okay. Just curious. And Sim, how about you?
Yeah, me too. I'm not. I mean, I think there's a risk with anything you put in your body, like vaccines, but the benefits outweigh the risks, and so I would take the vaccine and take it for the team and help out everybody else so that we can stop this thing. What do you think, Francis?
I agree with you guys. Yeah. Absolutely. 100%. Yeah, no problems. What about for next year? Any predictions on how you think the COVID will go? Do you think we'll have more? Because Sim, you predicted 1 million deaths.
Yeah.
And then I predicted 1.5. I was closer. I think the final toll for this year will be 1.7 or 8. I don't know. But so what about for next year? Any idea?
I'm betting that we conquer it, that we take the vaccines and and we get herd immunity, I guess. So
how many deaths? Patty?
Oh, I'm not going there.
Okay.
I'm hoping, before this vaccine came out so quickly, I was really just set to just drown through, the end of next year. And now I have more hope with Biden and the vaccine. And so I really think that by the end of June, we'll hopefully be, cupping it. And by the end of the year, I think I'm going to feel pretty okay about it. I mean, it's not going to disappear completely, but nothing does, So I'm hoping that I can get back to, what normal will ever be then by January, of 22.
How about yourself, Francis? What do you think?
Deaths wise, I haven't given it a ton of thought, but my instincts tell me. I mean, I got to give it. I'm going to give my predictions at the end of this year. I always give these annual predictions, so there I'll give my formal prediction. But just putting me on the spot right now, my knee-jerk reaction is going to be close to 1 million deaths. I think maybe 500,000. Between 500,000 to 1 million. The reason is simply that I think a lot of people will let down their guard I think a lot of people will avoid taking the vaccine.
Oh.
And so I think, and then also there might be some issues getting, and I'm talking again, worldwide deaths. And so I think that,
Right.
so when you think about some of the poorer countries might have, because of the refrigeration issues and that kind of stuff, they may not get the vaccine as quickly and as easily. So they will still succumb to it. So that's why I'm thinking at least a few 100,000 deaths, which, every year we put up with roughly around 400,000 flu deaths every fucking year. And so this will be, but I think flu deaths will be at an all-time low, certainly for 2020, and 2021 will also have very low flu deaths because masks protect you against the coronavirus and flu. So these are the measures we're taking, and all the social distancing, all that stuff protects you against flu. So I think our flu deaths, which normally are around 400,000 a year, we might get like less than 200,000 flu deaths. But we're going to get coronavirus adding maybe 400, 500,000 or so.
Yeah, in San Diego County, where I'm from, I think last year we had 119 cases, and this year 38 of flu because everybody's in masks. Yeah. I mean, it's a small scale compared to what you're talking about worldwide.
Yeah, but same idea.
Exactly.
Yeah, same idea. So what are your plans for 2021? You had the plan to go to Japan. That was
I had a ticket for $200 to go to Tokyo, and the flight got canceled.
Round trip?
No, one way.
Okay.
And I was going to take the train going across from Beijing to Moscow, but I figured it was
this
things
was
were
during
COVID.
COVID.
Yeah,
Right.
That would be too much of a hassle. So now I'm flying back to Jacksonville, Florida, and I'll continue on the Florida Trail. Hopefully that won't be closed.
This is for 2021.
2020, yeah, January I'll go there, and then my daughter's in North Carolina, and my ex-wife is in North Carolina, so I'll visit them in January.
How's your daughter doing? I know you've sometimes had these.
Yeah, she was in West Hollywood, and she wasn't talking to me for a while, and she kindly gave up. She was going to be a screenwriter, and then she was a Pilates instructor. She got all the training and everything, and she was doing tutoring and things like that. But now she's moved to Charlotte, and seems very happy, and we're talking and sending stuff together.
Finally, hey, great.
Yeah. So I feel
a ray of sunshine.
Yeah, ray of sunshine. So I'll visit her, and I'll probably visit my son.
Mr. Everest, man.
Yeah, he climbed Everest, and he climbed the highest peaks on each continent, and he just got married. And so it was a COVID marriage, so we couldn't go, but we'll have
Where is he living?
He's in Nashville. Okay. Yeah, he's an attorney, and his wife's an attorney.
Why is he in Nashville? How did these people end up like way out? You were a California boy.
Yeah. Usually
California boys don't go too far from good weather.
He was based in Boston, but his friend was running for Congress, and so he was helping him run for Congress.
Right, yeah.
And that didn't work. But he's an angel investor. He made a ton on an internet company that he ran. And also Bitcoin and Bitcash. He made a ton. He's still making a ton.
That's great.
Yeah.
You know me, I'm a Bitcoin fan.
Oh, yeah. He's done really well. And so, and his wife is an attorney also. And she was interviewing for Attorney General assistant.
Okay.
Yeah. But that kind of fell through. So now I think she's going to try and clerk in Nashville.
One of our last questions, totally random, Patty, 2024 election, who runs? I'm not like does Biden run again? Is I guess would have been
that's not your question.
No,
will Trump run?
Yeah, well,
yeah.
You think Trump will run again?
That's the word.
Okay, but
the thought. The first time I heard it on the news, I thought, did I mishear that?
No.
And then a couple of days later, they said,
I don't think he's going to run again. Joe Rogan has like a $1,000 bet or something like that with somebody who says whether he's going to run or not, and then another 1,000, I think, who's going to win or whether he's going to win the nomination again or not. And Joe Rogan, and I agree with him, says no. I think Joe said no.
Oh, he won't run in 2020.
That he won't run, and he'll certainly talk about it constantly.
Yeah. Oh, he's making a lot of money when people contribute.
Yeah. Sure. No, he'll talk about it till the cows come home. Yeah. And actually like really doing it, I don't think so. I mean, the guy's, how old is he now?
74.
Right. So by 4 years from now, he's going to be 78. I mean,
I know, but isn't Biden 78?
Yeah,
I guess.
The oldest president that
Yeah,
we've
no,
had.
you're right.
You know.
But so that which brings up the question: do you think Biden will run again?
Well,
Didn't he say somewhere that he was going to be a one-term president? That he promised that?
Yeah, I don't know if he promised that, but I think Kamala will run. I think.
Yeah.
Okay,
if Biden is not healthy enough at 82, as a woman, trust me, I'd go around the block twice and vote for her.
All right. Okay. All right.
Yeah, same thing. I'm thinking the torch will be passed to the younger and the female.
We'll have unprecedented to have two one-term presidents. It's been a long time. I can't remember.
Yeah.
Back to back. That would be weird. I mean, we haven't had two one-term presidents.
Well, we had Ford and we had Carter, so those were two.
Oh yeah, but Ford is like not really.
Yeah.
It doesn't count.
He gave the pardon. He lost the presidency. So
exactly.
Oh well.
And that concludes this episode of the WanderLearn podcast, where we explore travel, technology, and transformation. If you'd like to see the show notes with links to what we talked about, or if you'd like to comment on the show, or if you'd like to ask me a question, then go to wanderlearn.com and click on this episode. If you'd like to connect with me, just remember Tapon. That's my first initial and my last name. Tapon is the username I use on all social media. You can also get to my website by going to ftapon.com. And here's one last reason to remember Tapon. If you like what I do and would like to get rewarded for supporting my projects, then go to patreon.com/ftapon. That's where you can pick up some remarkable rewards for as little as $2 a month. And now for 5 quick favors. Number 1, subscribe to the WanderLearn podcast. 2, download it. 3, share it. 4, review it somewhere. And 5, sign up for my newsletter at wanderlearn.com. Our theme music was composed by Eric Stratman. This is Francis Tapon, encouraging you to wander and learn.